wonderful holiday of Shavuos, the most important day of creation, the day of eternity, the day the purpose of the world was fulfilled, the most important day that ever was, that ever will be, the day of Shavuos, the day that God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai. And that is something that we're looking forward to.
Could we please have quiet? Could people please go to their seats out of respect to Rabbi Mintz? Could everybody please be quiet and shut off your cell phones, please? Thank you.
Tonight, we start our last trek towards Mount Sinai. The last week, we started counting the second night of Pesach. And we're counting so far 6 full weeks. Tonight we start counting the 7th week. Tonight we'll count Shnayim v'Arboim Yoim, Shlosh v'Arboim, 43 days in the Omer, which are 6 weeks and 1 day. We'll count tonight. Our last week, and this is called Malchus, commemorating God's kingdom. This is the week that we pray to God to reveal himself, to show his kingdom to the world, to stop hiding himself. Everybody should see and realize that he's there, he's with us, and we want him to reveal himself. He's been hiding himself for almost 2,000 years since the destruction of the Second Temple. Oh, thank you. Shavuos, like we're saying, is the time of the month, the day of Sivan, that God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. And we want to show our great gratitude to Hashem and how we love the Torah. And therefore, it's a very strong custom for people to stay up the whole night of Shavuos, the first night of Shavuos, to study Torah. If you go to any Orthodox synagogue, shul, or any yeshiva, you'll come in and hear a lot of noise. People studying Torah the whole night until dawn, that they say the prayers of the morning prayers. So anybody who's able to fulfill that custom, it will be a great thing to stay up a whole night studying Torah. Of course, we have the 2 days of Yom Tov. It's not like Shabbos, almost like Shabbos, but allowed to cook and prepare meals and do certain things that are important for eating, things like that. But otherwise, we have the laws of Shabbos of not driving, not doing the wash or things like that. Only things that have to do with the happiness of the day, preparing good meals. Of course, we have the dairy foods that were special for Shavuos, plintzes. I hope everybody will have the plintzes ready. Cheesecake, and all dairy kind of foods that we have especially for Shavuos. But I wanted to talk about tonight, in the honor of Shavuos, to talk about a passage in the Pirkei Avos that we say every week after, between Pesach and Shavuos. The 6th parak, the 6th chapter, will be recited this Shabbos. And it's preparation for the great holiday coming up. We have to prepare for it, make ourselves worthy that God should reveal himself, give us a lot of Kedusha, even though the Geula has not come yet. God has not revealed himself totally, but we know on Shavuos, just like God gave a lot of holiness on that day, every year when Shavuos comes, we are able to receive from him a lot of holiness, closeness to him. The more we prepare ourselves for the day, to think about it, to study Torah, to work on our character traits, the more God will reveal himself to us and give us more Kedusha. So I want to discuss one of those Mishnahs that we have in the 6th chapter of Avos. It goes like this. I'll say over what it says, then we'll go to discuss what was said over here. Amar Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma. We have on our sheets over here a lot of it, and just phrases. Rabbi Yosef, the son of Kisma, said the following. Pamachas hayisi mahalach baderech. I was once traveling on the road, like we have. And I met somebody, a person, and he gave me Shalom Aleichem, and I returned to him Shalom Aleichem to him. And he said to me, he realized that the man that this Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma, who sang over the story, that was a great, fantastic, outstanding scholar in Torah, and the person who met him realized that. And he said to him, Rabbi, Me'eza Mokimata, where are you from? Where's your hometown? Amarti Me'ir Gedola Shel Chachamim Shel Soifrim. I told him I come from a city that has great scholars, Torah scholars, that live in that city. Amar Rabbi, maybe you'd like to live with us. Come to my city. And if you'll come to my city, I'll give you thousands and tens of thousands of gold coins. I'll give you precious metals, precious stones, and diamonds. If you come to live by us, I'll make you a rich man. I'll make you a multi-rich man. Obviously, he realized that this Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma was a very great Torah scholar, and living in their city would be a very big plus for them. I might have said over to the story where the Chafetz Chaim, the great Chafetz Chaim, the great rabbi of 100 years ago, who lived in the city of Radin, small city in Europe, in Poland, and he's buried there. And the Rabbi Teitz from Elizabeth, New Jersey, Rabbi Teitz, wanted to bring his body to be buried in the Holy Land of Israel. And not many Jews were living there after the war anymore. And when the non-Jews heard about it, said, we're not allowing you to remove him from here, take him away. Because we know that if he's buried here, we're going to be safe from our enemies, from any harm, even though they were non-Jews, but they recognized the greatness of the Chafetz Chaim. When he died, they were very young. By this time, they were all much older. And they knew that if you have a great man, even if he's not alive anymore, the fact that he's there, they felt that's going to save them from any harm, any bad things to happen. So therefore, they were very strong and said, we're not allowing his body to be removed from the city, from Radin. So even non-Jews can recognize when a great tzaddik is someplace that he has a big effect on what's going on. God is close to him, even when he's not alive. And therefore, they were very stubborn about it and wouldn't allow it to be moved. So this man realized, this great man, Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma, how great he was, and he wanted him to bring him to their city. So he offered him this great wealth of making him a multi-millionaire with thousands of gold coins and diamonds and jewels. So, Amarti Loi, I said to him, even if you'll give me all the gold and silver of the world. Number 4, if you'll give me all of in the world, not only what you have, what you want to give me, you give me everything in the world. Torah. I'll only live in the place of Torah. I come from a city with great Torah scholars, great rabbis, learned people, very people fearing of God. I will only live in a city like that. I don't need all the riches that you promised to give me. This is more important to me. I'm not going to leave my city to go to your city. And King David says, King David himself says, God, your Torah to me is worth more than all the gold and silver in the world. the words of Torah. Not only that, he said them, but at the time when a person leaves the world, when a person dies, what do they put in the grave with him? There are no Lexus and no Rolls Royces they put into his grave. I never saw that. I've been many funerals, but they don't seem to be able to put into the grave a lot of money, a lot of gold, and a lot of silver to take with him. He just takes his body with him. What does the person take with him when he dies? Torah and Ma'aseh Tovim. The study of Torah that he did and the kind acts that he did during his lifetime. That's what he takes with him. Nothing else that'll take him. So what are you going to give me all this gold and silver? What's going to happen to it? When he dies, he can't take it with him. But Torah, that's what a person takes with him. So we see from here that it's important for a person to be in a place with this Torah, study of Torah. Like tonight, people came here to study Torah, to hear words of Torah. That's what we're talking about. Now, this is the story that's given over in Pirkei Avos. What I want to discuss is, what is the importance of living in a place where there are great scholars, great rabbis? He was a great rabbi himself. He could have gone to that city, and he would have studied Torah the whole time. He didn't have to work for it. They were supporting him. He gave all those riches, all that money. So he had it made. He had all the food that he wanted, clothing that he wanted, anything he wanted. They were taking care of him. And a lot of money to put in the bank also. So why did he want a place only with other Torah scholars, people that were Chachamim? I said, I only live in a place with the Chachamim. Today we have, to our great dismay, people move to all suburbs of different cities, big cities, New York, and wherever you go, all the big cities, the small cities, many big cities, and Los Angeles, and Miami. And they have the outskirts now, the suburban part of the city. Jews move out there, and it's very bad for them because they don't have any shuls, they don't have any rabbis, they don't have people. They're all by themselves among the non-Jewish people, and they become assimilated, become intermarried, because they're living by themselves without people around them to be able to have a connection to Torah, to Judaism. And that's the main causes of the assimilation today, the intermarriage, is because of the fact that people are living without being close to Torah people, without being close to the Jewish neighbors, and they're by themselves and separated from the Jewish community. And that's very bad. So let's try to analyze, what would he get by being in the place where the Torah scholars? Number one, we have a number 6 on the glossary sheet. A person to be able to become very knowledgeable in Torah study cannot be by himself. If you take a knife and you want to sharpen the knife, I don't know how many people today know how to sharpen knives, but I'll give you a lesson about it in case you don't know how. You'll take a knife and wave it in the air. You can wave it for an hour. It won't get any sharper because there's nothing to sharpen it. The air won't sharpen it. How do people sharpen knives? I don't know if you ever saw your bubba sharpen a knife. Take another knife and you rub 2 knives together and you up and down, back and forth, and that's how the knives become sharp, because there's resistance. There's resistance to the knife that as you're putting it across the other one, and by going back and forth, that sharpens the knife. The words in Chazal is, a rabbi say, Chachamim mechaden zeh zeh b'halacha. The scholars sharpen each other when it comes to study, Torah study especially, that you have to have a person who challenges you. When you say something, if you have nobody to challenge, so you just think everything you say, it's good, everything I said, wonderful. Everything I say is true. Nobody's challenging me, so I can say what I want and get away with it. And who knows, a person can say things that are all wrong, but there's nobody around to correct him, nobody around to say anything, so he can go around patting himself on the back. Wow, I'm so, waving the white knife in the air. Whatever I say is okay. There's nobody challenging me. Well, there's nobody around to challenge you. So what do you feel so good about? If you're amongst other people, and there are people that are challenging you, like we have questions here, challenging, it picks my brain, and I walk out of here more knowledgeable than when I walked in, because you have people asking questions and challenging and asking, and therefore you have to answer, and you have to think of ways how to make your words make sense, because different people think different ways, and you want to be able to make sense of what you're saying according to the way everybody looks at it. People look at things differently. Well, how about this and how about that? They challenge your statement, challenge what you're saying, and therefore you have to come to the rescue of yourself to think over what you're saying and make sure maybe that's not, maybe not saying the right thing. Maybe it's not totally, maybe it's partially correct, maybe totally incorrect, maybe, because people challenge, they make you think. So therefore, we say that people who study Torah by themselves will not excel in Torah study. And all knowledge, and all aspects of knowledge, it's like that, especially Torah study. But if nobody's to challenge you, a person can get away with saying things that don't make any sense, really, and he can pat himself in the back that I'm so smart, I'm so great. But if you put it in front of other great thinkers, people, knowledgeable people, you might find out that when you're not so great, and you have to defend what you're saying, and you have to be able to add to it, subtract from it, and make sure that what you're saying is correct. So therefore, Rabbi Chaim said, I'm not going to go to your city. All the money you're going to give me, I have no chachamim, nobody to talk to in Torah study. I'll be all by myself. And who knows? Who knows if I'll study correctly? Who knows if I'll come to the right conclusions, the right ideas? I might be all wrong. I need somebody to challenge me and make sure to keep me straight, keep me on track. That's very important for a person to be able to make sure that he's coming to the truth. Otherwise, he can be fall into the mistake mode, and he won't even realize it. So this is one reason why it's important to have Talchum. If you walk into a yeshiva where you have students studying, boys and young men, they're studying Torah. Now you walk into a library, it says, quiet please, so quiet and quiet. You come to a study stall in the yeshiva, people are amazed. It's so much noise. They learn with buddies. Two people are studying together, and they're studying the Talmud, they're studying the Gemara, and they're challenging each other, and they're screaming at each other, trying to smart the other person to say, no, what I'm saying is right. No, you're not right. And they're just talking and talking. Of course, they're the best of friends, but they're studying in a way which challenging over and over again to make sure. And the next period of study, they take a different buddy to learn with, somebody else, chavrusa, and they study with him. They get together in groups and study together, and one person says something, and they all have the chance to question what he's saying, and you'll come to a study group at this Shavuos night, for instance. You'll go to any yeshiva or any shul that they stay up a whole night. You can't fall asleep too fast because there's so much loud noise coming. Everybody's studying and challenging and discussing and making sure that they're saying the right thing. That's the way Torah study, with the challenges, and we don't take anything for granted. That's the whole the way of the Talmud, of the Gemara, asking, questioning, and making sure that everything is 100%. You can't get away with anything in the Gemara. Everything is challenged, and the different opinions all the time. So this is what one reason Rabbi Chaim was saying, I'm not going to go to your city. I have to have people that are able to sit down and study and pick my brain. I'll pick their brain, and together we'll come to great ideas that we couldn't have done by ourselves. That's one reason why he wanted. Another reason is that, number 7, that if we see other people studying the Torah, and we see with such cheshik and zeal and love and so much time the affection of a person to learn Torah is something that it's something to observe. It's catchy. Sometimes a person might be studying Torah and maybe doesn't feel so good. Maybe he's in a bad mood. But then you see the other person that's studying Torah with such a good feeling. They enjoy studying Torah so much that it catches on to a person. And the more a person studies Torah, the more he gains, the more he gets to understand it, that he likes it. It's so deep and such clarity to it, and it's so enjoyable to study Torah. So a person all by himself, he's not able to catch that mood and catch the spirit of studying Torah. If he's amongst other people, scholars, who are studying and they're enjoying it and they're putting themselves into it, that makes a person much more ready and gives them the feeling to put himself into studying Torah more and more, because he realizes how great it is and how enjoyable it is. Some people say, studying Torah, is that really something you like doing? Is something that you enjoy doing? They enjoy going for a walk, or going for a pizza, or getting a nice a Slurpee or something, or a pancake or whatever, going to the restaurant. That's what they enjoy. They don't realize the intellectual enjoyment of studying something that's deep, that's challenging. That's the most enjoyable thing, to take a challenge, work on it, and work it out, and come to the truth and to the bottom of it. That's the most enjoyable thing, much more than the physical enjoyment. The person has a mental enjoyment that he really feels is accomplishing and understanding and comprehending something that's difficult, and he's able to take the challenge and win, and feel that he's conquered the challenge. That's one of the biggest enjoyments possible. So this is something, another reason he wants to be with Chachamim, with these scholars, who will be able to emulate, and be able to, there'll be motivation to him, for him to also feel that way. Even though he was a great scholar himself, but there's always something to learn from somebody else to be even greater. That's another thing. Number 8, he wants to be among scholars. Maimonides, the Rambam tells us that just like a scholar, a person who's very knowledgeable of Torah, just like his ideas and his knowledge is different from everybody else, he's very knowledgeable about Torah, so his life and his actions and his whole way of conducting himself has to be different. We don't believe, for a better word, don't believe in the fact the person has knowledge that doesn't affect his actions. When it comes to other studies, other subjects, a person can be a big mathematician, has nothing to do with his actions. A person can be a great historian, and nothing to do with his actions. A person can be a great zoologist, nothing to do with his actions. But Torah study demands action, demands a person to act in a way which is acceptable by Torah standards. We don't just go by knowledge. A person who's very knowledgeable in Torah, but his actions don't coincide with the knowledge that he has, we don't respect that person. A person studying Torah must be different. His actions has to be on a higher level. The way he talks to people, the Rambam says, the way a person of a Talmud Chacham, a scholar, the way he talks, the way he eats, the way he drinks, everything, the way he reacts to the people that he meets. They have to feel that this is a higher type of person, is a higher caliber of a person. He's studying God's Torah. It's not just a knowledge of down-to-earth, mundane ideas that people learn and they study. But this is God's Torah. It's something higher up, something special. And when we study God's Torah, we're expected to emulate God and go in His ways. we have a mitzvah. We have to go in the ways of God, the way we eat and the way we drink. A person has to eat in a way that should be not like an animal eats. We go and see the farm, you go to the country, you see animals eating, and that's all they do the whole day. The horses, the cows, they're eating the whole time. Why are they eating? They're eating because they're animals. They have no higher thoughts. They just that's what they feel like doing. A man who is in the neshama, a man studying Torah, he has to eat because there's a reason to eat. He wants to be healthy in order to serve God. So therefore, he makes sure he won't eat things that are not healthy, because just because he feels his animalistic feelings wants him to eat. So some people eat too much or eat the wrong things because it tastes good. But a person who's a Torah scholar knows that's the reason why you eat. You have to eat because there's a reason for eating. There's a godly thing about eating, because we want to be able to serve God. We can't be healthy. We can't live without eating. If the person goes to sleep, why is he going to sleep? Because he's tired? That's the whole reason? Because whenever he feels like sleeping? Or he has a higher thought in mind. I want to go to sleep because I want to be awake tomorrow to be able, when I say my prayers to God, I should be able to concentrate. I should be able to Torah to more concentrate, be able to go to my work to do in order to be able to do a good job, to get paid, in order to have money, in order to buy food to serve Hashem. So a person who studies Torah, his actions are different than people who don't study Torah, because people who don't study Torah, they're very animalistic in their whole life, in their eating and their walking and everything that they do is so different. It might be the same action sometimes, but what are you thinking? What is the purpose of all this? So you want to be amongst Chachamim, these great people, to watch them, to see how they live their lifestyle, how they do their mundane physical actions. Of course, they're studying Torah is different, but that's a pure spiritual action to study Torah. But how about their physical actions? That's something that Chachamim, people, scholars of Torah, they are different in their whole physical actions, because they do it in a way which has a purpose to it. There's a reason for it. They're doing it because this is something that God wants them to do in the right way. They study, the more Torah they study, the Torah tells us how we're supposed to act, how we're supposed to eat, how we're supposed to talk to people, how it's be nice to them. And even we're maybe tired and it's difficult and somebody's nudging us and they give us a hard time. But Torah says you have to be nice to people even if you're not such a good mood, even though they're bothering you so much, whatever it is. So this is something that people learn from the Chachamim. Let me just, almost time for us to stop already. So much to talk about here. Just to bring a sample of what I'm talking about. The great, I don't know if I ever told the story before, the great Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who was the greatest of this generation, the last generation. He left the world 30 years ago, the greatest rabbi in the world. And he was once, did I say the story about the child? He was once out of town for a purpose of collecting charity for a certain organization. And he stayed at somebody's house, and in the middle of the night, the person who was house he was staying with heard some noise. So he went to see what's going on. He see Rabbi Moshe on the floor with his little daughter, 5 years old, playing with her. So he was puzzled why the greatest rabbi in the world is playing with his 5-year-old daughter. So he asked him, how come? So he told him, I don't understand. She is your only daughter. And she, in this house, gets all the attention. Everybody tzadkas her, and everybody smiles, and everybody takes care. And I came now, and I get all the attention. Everybody's coming to Rabbi Moshe, everybody's visiting him, everybody's coming to the house, and she's put on the sideline. So I'm making her feel bad. So it's not nice. So I want to show her that I also, I have respect her, and I give her my attention, because otherwise she'll feel bad that here this rabbi, this guy with the beard comes, and he takes over the house, and she's what happened to her. This is a person, the greatest man, who not too big to put himself down to a little girl, 5 years old, because she is a human being, and she has a neshama, and she has feelings, and this is a Torah person who realizes what a person is, what a child is, what feelings are. So this is something, an example of, he wants to be amongst Chachamim to see their great actions, the way they act. And of course, the greatest thing of all, to be amongst Chachamim, because that's where God is. Where does God stay? Where's God's place that he puts a Shechina where he hangs out? It's a little too. Where God stays, where his place is, where people studying Torah, that's where God is. He'll go to a different city, no Chachamim, it'll be hard to find God over there. But he's with Chachamim, with the studying Torah, then he feels God, he feels the holiness and the purity and the great feeling and the happiness of being close to Hashem. So therefore, the Rabbi Ben Kisma, that's why he wanted to be in his city, forget about the money, forget about, this is what, and that's why we called the name of this Shavuos tonight, the Midbar. God gave the Torah in the Midbar, in the desert. Why did he give the Torah in the desert? To bring out this point. Forget about the gold and the silver and all the mundane and all the cars and the houses and the clothes and the restaurants and the vacations with people in the Midbar. There's no cars, there's no food, only the mun came from the Shemayim to show that Torah is above all these things. God gave the Torah in the desert, away from all the money, physical things, to show that this is what life is all about. The real life, the true life. This is we have to have mundane, we have to have food, we have to have to live, we have to have all these things, but we should do it with a purpose, not for a purpose in itself, a higher purpose, elevation, that we have to think about a person give away all his gems and we can't take it with us. We have to have a higher ideas of life, of what God wants from us. He gave us the Torah in the Midbar, away from all the gold and the silver and all these things, that we should know what life is really all about, and not to fall into the trap that most people do, that their whole life is for gold and silver and mundane physical things. Let's wake ourselves up before Shavuos and realize the Torah, that is the real thing.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi Mintz. We have a lot of questions in the room already. Wow. Okay, we'll start from the back. Sort of. I don't know. Rabbi Rachman, we saved the best for last.
Rabbi Mintz, I tell you the honest truth, I have a lot of problems with the answer of this rabbi.
Problems with what?
I have many, many problems with the answer that Rabbi Yossi gave.
Oh, yes? Okay.
Because it seems to me that he's thinking only about himself. If he is already such a great rabbi, and he's offered so much money, why not to take the money, go to that city where there are no Chachamim and nobody learned anything, bring with him other Talmidei Chachamim, he has millions and millions years offered, open a yeshiva, open a Beit Knesset, open something, and bring Torah to that city that doesn't have anything. Why is he thinking only about himself?
Okay, the question is, Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma was offered a whole lot of money to move to this town. Why didn't he take that money, open a yeshiva there, bring other Talmidei Chachamim there, and make it a center for Torah?
Well, first of all, that's a great question.
Like Staten Island.
And this question is...
Like Torah Spot. You could open Torah Spot.
Yeah. This question has been asked by many. Yes, it's a very wonderful question. But first, we have to understand a very important thing. People don't realize, they think people study Torah, they study for themselves. Chazal tell us that's one big mistake. When people study Torah, it's for the world. It's not for themselves. And the best proof is that when God wanted to destroy Sodom, Avram said, how about if you have 10 tzaddikim in the city? And God said, well, 10 tzaddikim, I won't destroy the city because of those tzaddikim. When, like I said before, the Chafetz Chaim, he was in that town, even the non-Jews realized the great Chafetz Chaim, if he's buried there, God will not bring any perennials, any bad things to that city. When the Talmud Chacham studies Torah, he's giving the world light, he's giving the world health, bringing the world wealth, because studying Torah, like I said at the end now, brings Hashem close. God is close to those who study Torah. From the day that Chazal, the day that the Holy Temple was destroyed, till then God was in the Holy Temple. Where is he now? Now he's where we Torah studied. And the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, gave to the world everything good that the world has, because Hashem is close. He is the source of all blessings. When He comes close, when people study Torah, He brings blessings to the whole world. So a big mistake, people think, well, he's studying Torah there, that's for himself. No. When a person studies Torah, he's doing something for the whole world. The whole world is gaining by his studying Torah. As we're told, if Torah would be stopped studying, nobody would study Torah for 1 second, the whole world would turn into a Torah vavohu. The world would turn to nothing like it was before creation. The Torah is what keeps the world alive. Torah gives the world sustenance and bracha of hatzlacha and everything that's good in the world. So that's number one. We have to realize that when he's studying Torah with all his chachamim together, they brought to the world spiritual blessing and physical blessing and something that wasn't just for him. Now, you're saying, well, okay, so that's very nice, but why not come and start yeshiva over here? They weren't offering him that. They're offering, we want to come our place. They come to us on our terms. We're not interested. They didn't have any chacham until then. And they would not come. Just wanted him to come by himself and be not too, like some people said, afraid to get too religious. They were too. They started a yeshiva. How do you like that? I'm embarrassed to say that one of the great yeshivas today is that started in a certain city in New Jersey, and they threw them out of town. The Jews threw them out of town. They don't want these people, these guys walking around studying Torah. It gives them a guilty conscience. Doesn't want to see these black hats around, and these people studying Torah. And a lot of Jews don't want to see the Torah in where they're living. And some people, it's enough. We have a shul here, and we go for Shabbos to shul, but don't bring too much religion to our midst. The people are very, very silly, foolish. They don't realize what it's blessing. Every town that has yeshiva, like Chavetz Chaim was like yeshiva himself. So this town has been komenu. They come to our place on our terms. That's why. Okay, if they come and make yeshiva and bring other chachamim, he would have come running. But they didn't want that. You come, that's enough. We don't want any more religion than that. But
Okay.
what you're saying is a very important thing that you said. You're right. If they have the opportunity, we have to do that. Like it's happening all over America, over the world today. They're having different. Every city you go to today almost has a yeshiva, a kollel, people sitting and learning, and Torah is spreading very, very, very strongly all over the world.
Again, please mute your phones. Thank you. Online question from David Freshman. When Mashiach arrives, how will we know that how will he convince us that he's the authentic, real Mashiach? There have been false messiahs before. How will he be able to convince us that he's the true Mashiach?
Well, the Rambam tells us, because he brings up Chazal from our rabbis, from the Talmud, the Gemara, that Mashiach, of course, Mashiach will be a person. He'll be born from a father and a mother. He's not some kind of angel coming from heaven on a fiery chariot. His Mashiach will be a person. He'll be from the family of King David, from that family tree coming from King David, from the tribe of Yehuda. And he will be so great, close to the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, close to, not quite like Moses himself. Nobody will be like him, but very close to him. And everybody will see he'll be a great prophet, be able to say things that people would not know unless God told them. So he'll be able to prove to people that he is truly the messenger of Hashem, and he will be able to be a great leader. People will go to him for advice. People will be subordinate themselves to him, and he will be somebody will be recognized by the world that he's outstanding, he's special, the greatest in the world, and it'll be something that won't be any question. That he'll be recognized that he is the messenger of Hashem. Nobody in the world ever came close to that since Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah was given Mount Sinai, and he will be the one that will bring the light into the world and be God's messenger for God to reveal himself.
Okay. Questions in the room?
I had different question, but since that question came up about the Mashiach. I would like to know how the rabbi explains that Rabbi Akiva believed in Bar Kokhba. I'm not sure if Bar Kokhba was like Moshe Rabbeinu. He seems to have been out in the woods chopping off fingers and maybe uprooting trees. And I believe that at the end, they found out that he wasn't as religious as he should have been, maybe.
Well, he had the beginnings of Mashiach. He didn't have everything naturally that to follow through, but he had the beginnings of greatness. He saw a certain greatness in him, and he thought that maybe this is him. He was waiting to see if it's going to develop. Mashiach's not come all of a sudden, zoom. It'll person to develop in what he is. It'll take time for that to come out to its full extent, to show everything that the Rambam I mentioned now. That takes time. It'll start off in a small way, and it'll spread until it becomes the greatness that we're talking about. So he saw the beginnings of Mashiach in him, but afterwards he saw that it's not taking root, it's not developing. It's not developing, therefore he saw that that's not the real thing. If it developed into what we're talking about, because of Moshe Rabbeinu, then we know it's Mashiach. But it never developed to be that way.
Okay. We're making our way back there, where we were before. Hold on.
What do women do on Shavuos night?
Okay, the question is, Rabbi Mintz mentioned men stay up Shavuos night. What do women do?
Well, first I have to make sure to make cheesecake and make blintzes, and to make sure that the Yom Tov meals are like they should be, and delicious meals and enough for everybody. That's the first concern. That in itself takes a lot of work to do. If they have extra time or want to stay up and study Torah, let them be blessed to do so. But naturally they shouldn't, the woman is the person who is the one who makes the Simchas Yom Tov. We have in Yom Tov Chotzi Lachem, Chotzi L'Hashem. Half it goes to service to Hashem, and half goes for us to enjoy the Yom Tov meals and spending time with our family and friends. So the half of the Hashem to Hashem is the men have to do, and the women have to prepare that it should be Chotzi Lachem, that the family should have the right kind of Simchas Yom Tov, only Yom Tov, the enjoyment of Yom Tov. That's their first priority, which is they'll get as much mitzvah the men get for learning, they get for preparing and making things happen the way they should. But if they have extra time and they want to stay up to learn, that's very nice. It's okay.
Okay. Got some questions in the back. The people waiting. Ernie, you didn't throw out the opening pitch, so we'll get you soon. I want to ask everybody to please mute your phones. We asked for it at the beginning. We asked for it a few minutes ago. Please mute your phones.
Rabbi Mintz, a couple weeks back, I was at a friend's birthday party, and it seems like a lot of our friends have this sort of ritual where they take either the birthday cake or a piece of the birthday cake, and they pie it in the person's face, in the birthday boy's face or birthday girl's face. And I've been a recipient of that many times, and many of my friends. After a while, it gets a little not so funny anymore after year. But obviously the ones that are doing it obviously feel that this is a very fun thing to do. Surprise them coming out of nowhere, maybe using some caramel cream where it doesn't. And I've seen it also. We have in camp in the zone where the baker would make birthday cakes, and the staff members or even campers would go and pie the kid in the face. My question is, in the Torah, is anything wrong, or is it perfectly fine to do it?
Okay, it's a question, multi-layered question, I guess. The question is, some people have made it a tradition to smash a pie in a birthday boy's face. For those that don't know what pieing is, you take this cake and you smash it in someone's face. So, sometimes the recipient doesn't always think it's so funny. So I guess the first question is, or two questions, I guess. One is it appropriate to do because we have a law against wasting food? And the second question, I guess, would be, is do you have to be concerned that the person doesn't care for it? And or is there really a tradition to this? Maybe. Right. Is this an accepted practice,
I'd like to answer the second one first. That the person who it's being done to does not appreciate it, for sure, it's the wrong thing to do without any question. The question that Rabbi Berman brought up, Baltashchis, we're not allowed to waste food, which our first reaction would be, this is really wasting food. A cake like that in the bakery costs about, who knows, $10, $15. Somebody might argue, well, you're not wasting it because you have the purpose of what you're doing with it. The person who doesn't appreciate it will take away that argument altogether because he doesn't appreciate it, and then the whole thing for birthday is to make somebody happy and make him sad and make him upset. So certainly it's maltasks for sure. It's wasting it because it didn't have the effect. He can even question altogether whether it's considered wasting or not. But somebody could argue, well, since the person enjoys it, and everybody's enjoying it and having a good time, so maybe it's not called wasting it because using it for that purpose. But the action itself is not a Jewish thing. It's a very mundane, down-to-earth act of destroying. It's not a way of a tzelem elakim, a person who's made in of God's kedusha, God's holiness. And we said before, Talmud Chochem would not go for a thing like that. And a Jewish way, certainly not a minhag that was brought over from our forefathers from other countries to America. Again, the American type of thing, I'm quite sure. And it's an act of I would say preaches of lack of sensitivity, of fineness of action, a thing like that. It's a grubbermice. How would you say grubbermice in English? Crude, very crude thing done. Sometimes it's done by some people because they want to make some kids feel good. They feel the outcome, the goal is able to justify the means. Yeah. So they might feel in certain circumstances that that's worthwhile doing it because of the certain outcome that might come. But generally speaking, it's not a Jewish thing. It's not a Torah thing. And it certainly should not be done unless the person has very good reason to do it. There has to be a very good reason why, but it's not an action that is considered a very Jewish and sensitive and edel and fine.
Okay. Ernie.
The Torah seems to offer a recipe for a country as to how to defend itself. When Yaakov met Esau in the desert, as I understand it, he had a line of defense of gifts, jewelry, fruits, vegetables to try to appease his enemy. And then he had a second line of defense, I believe it might have been with their women and children, and then a final line of defense of men to actually go to war and to defeat. Is that a good approach for a country to protect itself?
Okay, I think we'll ask the question, we'll put a little twist on the question, we'll put it more in line. Yaakov prepared himself when Jacob met Esau in the desert, so when he encountered him on his way back from the house of Lavan, so he sent him gifts to try to appease him, and then he sent the women and children to greet him, and that was all part of the war part, and then he prayed. Is this line of defense of first going with appeasement and then going with the women and children to try to find favor in the person's eyes, is that a smart way for a country to wage a war?
Or what's the alternative? And which way? To go to war is wrong or to appease him is wrong? Which is the thing that you're...
He's trying, this wasn't to defeat the enemy, he was trying to avoid, the question was...
Should we try to appease people to avoid war? Is that what you're saying? Well, definitely, it's if the appeasement is going to lead to peace. We have the whole the Second World War by, what was his name, Chamberlain, who was appeasing that Russia, I don't want to say his name here, and they gave him up this land and that land, and something to appease people that they're not going to be appeased. They're just taking advantage as much as they can, and they're going to take advantage at the end anyway. So you have to know if the appeasement, what you're giving up for it. Here, giving presents to Esav certainly was worthwhile, rather than going to war or having the children bow down to him and subordinate themselves to him. And so that was worth it because it accomplished the goal that he tried to by giving him all these presents, all the animals, and they gave him, even Rashi says he gave him diamonds and jewels in order to appease him. It worked. And therefore, he stopped the war, so that was certainly worthwhile.
It's not a way to
Definitely.
win, it's a way to avoid a war, in short, if it works.
Yeah, but not to give up things that you shouldn't give up. In other words, to give up the Torah to appease people, like in time of Hanukkah, that they would have left the Jews alone if they would have stopped the religion. And that we're not going to appease people by that, giving up our religion. We give our life for that. So it depends what you're appeasing with. Appeasing that things with jewels and diamonds, that's okay. So we want to have jewels and diamonds if we have peace. But not give our religion up to appease people. That we wouldn't do.
Okay. Question?
Hi, Rabbi. My question to you is, why are only 10 men or more needed for a minyan? Is 10 such a special number?
Amy's question is, what's the magic of the number 10? We have 10 men for a minyan. Why do we need 10 men for a minyan, specifically a minimum of 10?
Well, 10 is because every Jewish person has a special spiritual...
Can we have quiet in the room, please, as Rabbi Mintz answers the questions?
The special, outstanding greatness about him. Every Jewish person has something special about him. And just like the 10 ingredients of the besamim, of this incense, the spices in the Holy Temple, was 10 spices, because that together they made a very great fragrance putting them together. So every time 10 Jews come together, since everybody has their own spice and their own fragrance and their own greatness, together they make such a greatness that brings God close, because of spirituality. The spiritual greatness of each Jew makes a spiritual a receptacle for God to come close to us. So therefore we have 10 people, which makes a special fragrance of spirituality to Hashem, but the 10 Jews who have this great spiritual greatness about them, and therefore it makes the receptacle for God to come and close to them and to listen to their prayers.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi.
Our rabbis teach us that Sharei Demos Lo Nalu, that the gates of tears are never closed. So if they're never closed, why are there gates?
Question is, the Talmud teaches us that the gates of tears never close. Even when the gates of prayer are closed, the gates of tears are still are open. Why do you need gates if the doorway is always open?
No, it's get rid of the gates. They're always open anyway. The answer is, the simple answer is, by the great commentaries, if we tears, crocodile tears, that's what they're closed for. If the true tears, so then they're open. But if crocodile tears, people crying, but they don't really mean it, they close the gates of tears.
Okay, Asti?
I don't know crocodiles have tears. I don't know what they'd say cry that, but yeah. Yes.
Last week's Parsha talks about Shemitah and how the farmers they're told to take a year off, and it's like to stop working the fields, and it's a chance for them to just, tap into their souls and work on themselves, and I guess like take care of spiritual things that they would otherwise be preoccupied from work. So it's like kind of like Shabbos, right? So my question is, why is it that only farmers get this opportunity? And also, like, shouldn't everyone else get the chance to also become close to Hashem? And also, why is it that it's only in Israel?
Okay. We studied in last week's Torah reading. We were told about the commandment of Shemitah, of the sabbatical year, when fields were required to lay fallow. And the question is, why did that only apply in Israel, and why did only farmers get this opportunity to spend the year pursuing their spiritual growth every 7 years? Shouldn't it apply to everybody, wherever they live?
Well, the fact that the farmers don't work the land, that has repercussions to everybody. If you go to Eretz Israel even today, and you go to shop, then you start looking for those stores who keep Shemitah. Everybody's affected by it, and everybody's reminded of what's going on, and they all have to remember and set aside this year for them to contemplate and make Shemitah and have a special spirituality this year, because they're all involved. Everybody's involved. If there's no fruits that are growing, so people have to be careful of what food they're eating. If you go to the stores today, you can't eat from the certain stores certain fruits because of Shemitah, and there's limitations on everything that everybody feels. So it's not only the farmers that feel it. Everybody.
Well, the farmers are given a year off from work to pursue it, and the banker or the secretary or the ad executive are not. The question is, why don't they deserve a break too?
It's not deserving a break. It's for them to they are the ones who, it's like the Levium, who have to teach the people. They're the ones who are responsible for everybody, that they're feeling the Shemitah, and everybody should feel it. So it's not they're like the mentors of that year. That they're the ones who are causing everybody to feel Shemitah, and it starts from the farmers, and that's the great schus for them to make everybody else have the feeling of Shemitah. And the question, why is it only in Eretz Israel? Well, that's one of the tragedies of going to Golus, because since Eretz Israel is a holy land, so therefore the holiness brings holiness, and it's a holy land of all year around, every year, and it's a year of holiness. Yerushalayim is the holiest place. The rest of Eretz Israel is not as holy as Yerushalayim, and the rest of the world is not as holy as Eretz Israel. But that is the greatness, the holiness of Eretz Israel, that they are holy enough to have this great mitzvah, just like Tzaras. Tzaras is the person we call leprosy. We don't have that today. People used to they spoke Lashon Hara, they spoke slander, they got a certain skin problem that Hashem punished them with. We don't have that today. You have to be great enough in order to be able to God to be close enough to punish a person right away for that sin, and they should do tshuva right away. So certain standards of spirituality, they have to be there in order for God to have a certain connection to us. The same thing, the laws of Eretz Yisrael, you have to have the holiness of Eretz Yisrael gives us that great connection of brings more laws for us to have. In Chutz La'aretz, that's one of the tragedies of living not of Israel, not the time of the Beis HaMikdash, that we don't have this connection to Him. And therefore, out of Israel, we can't come to the holiness that we come to in Israel, because we have to be there to reach the holiness. So in Israel, we have Shemitah because it's a holy land, and it gives us an opportunity to be holy. Chutz La'aretz, it's not a holy land, and we don't have the opportunity.
Okay, it's getting late. We have a lot of questions, so keep them brief, please.
Sure. Hi, Rebbe.
Hi.
I was just wondering, basically, I hear there's always a lot of discussion and a lot of pump up about staying up the whole night Shavuos. I know myself throughout my whole life, it's always been, if I did do the whole night, the whole Yom Tov was very different. I was like a zombie. And maybe this is just my limitation personally, so that could be. But how does a person prepare properly so they can still do it and still, have Yom Tov? And is that what Yom Tov is about? Is it just that night of learning Torah, or is the Torah supposed to if you can't expand over the whole.
Okay, the question, briefly, should a person stays up all night, Shavuos night, and they're a zombie the rest of Yom Tov? A, what could they do to prevent that? And B, if that is what happens, is it worth doing it, or should they just go to sleep and have a normal Yom Tov and study regularly during the day?
Well, definitely, if it's going to spoil the Yom Tov, they should not stay up all night. Stay up longer than usual, study Torah. Some people take a good nap Erev Yom Tov, and that's what keeps them going. And then after the night, they sleep a few hours again in the morning in order to then prepare them for the rest of the Yom Tov. So that is a way that many people cope with it by sleeping before and sleeping afterwards that morning. But if that doesn't help, it definitely is not worth to stay up and be zank the rest of Yom Tov and not have a real Simchas Yom Tov. Not worth it. Just like in Purim, it's a mitzvah for people to drink, but if they get sick by drinking and it spoils their Purim, leave out the drinking and have a happy Purim.
Yeah, hi, Rabbi. I got a question today, and I said I would pass it on to you. The Discover You program in the boys' camp asked if they could have a dog as a mascot for their program. Discover You program is the college-age program in camp, and they want to have a mascot, a dog. You know, put a mascot, a nice DU cap on, and the question was...
Not a real dog.
No, a real dog. And a mascot. They figure we have camels, and we have goats, and we have sheep, and we have parrots. So why not have a dog special for DU, only for DU, and this will be their mascot. And I said, I'm not sure that it's the right and appropriate thing for a few reasons, whether a lot of the people are afraid of dogs, and other reasons not to have a dog. And I said I would ask the rabbi. If the rabbi says they can have a dog it is.
Okay, so here it is. Everybody heard the question. I don't think it needs any amplification from me.
Well, have the dog chained up, we're talking about, not running around, for sure not. A lot of people are afraid of dogs and will be killed. Even the animals, some people can't. But a dog barks and he makes people afraid. And Chazal say that, especially, mainly because a pregnant woman, the Gemara says that she'll be scared of a dog's barking and she might lose her miscarriage of the baby. So therefore, we say that dogs are very scary to many people, and it's not worth having it. So I thought we have a mascot. We have camels as the mascot, so that's good enough. I got a rooster, something.
Bunch of chickens.
I don't think that will be appreciated to have a dog. I think many people will be turned off by it. I don't think it's worth it.
That's why they don't want a rooster. Okay. Rabbi Reichman coming back from an injury to his nose. We don't know who punched him or what he did to the other person. We'll find out in a minute. That might be the question.
I don't want to say any Lashon Hara, so I'm not going to say what happened with my nose.
But he is going to ask a question from his wife.
A few weeks ago in my shul, we had a bar mitzvah. And the boy got mafter, and then he proceeded to read the Haftarah, and his voice wasn't loud enough to carry through the whole shul. So some people started crowding around the bima so they can hear every word of the Haftarah. They learned from a cloth, from a parchment. And some people were saying, don't do it, you're going to embarrass the boy, it's not worth it. It's not, if it's reading from the Torah itself, the reading of the Torah, that's more important to hear every word. And even then, I guess it's questionable. So the question is the right thing to do if there's a bar mitzvah boy reading and if everyone starts crowding around, he's going to be embarrassed. Is the right thing to do because you want to make sure you hear every word carefully, or better not hear every word, whether it's for the Haftarah or from the Torah reading, better not hear every word, not to embarrass the bar mitzvah boy.
Okay. The question is, the question was that bar mitzvah boy was reading from the Haftarah, and they read it from a scroll in their shul. And the question is, people felt that the boy would get very self-conscious and nervous and embarrassed. So others were saying that they want to hear every word. What's the appropriate reaction? Should they crowd around and risk offending the boy, or should they better stay in their seats and miss a couple of words if they can hear? And we have quiet, please, as Rabbi Mintz answers the question. Thank you.
It reminds me of what happened many years ago in Fleischmann's. I don't know if you ever heard the story that the great rabbis used to go to the Fleischmann's in the summertime for a vacation, for Shabbos, and the Rabbi Kotler, the great Rabbi Kotler was there, the great Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was there, and they had a difference of opinion if a young boy should read the Torah, hold the landing itself. So Rabbi Aaron didn't want him to read it, and Rabbi Moshe said it's okay to read it. So when Rabbi Aaron was there, they had an older person to read it. When he went away, they had a young boy to read it. So one time, Rabbi Aaron was supposed to leave, and they had the young boy prepare, and he's all set, and Rabbi Aaron, last minute, decided to stay. So now they had the question, he prepared the whole thing, the young boy, to read it, and now Rabbi Aaron's going to be there, and won't let him read it. It's going to be very patch and punch, and he'll be very upset about it. So they asked Rabbi Aaron, what should we do? Should we let him read it or not? So Rabbi Aaron said, to bury somebody is midaraisa, is a Torah law. To read the Torah is a rabbinic law. So we can't stop him, even though I don't really like that to happen. He should read it, but in this case, we're not going to stop him from reading because it'll make him feel very bad. So we have to think about, in this, what you're talking about now, is the same type of question. Should we, but here it's a little bit different because they'll miss out on it. It's different than over there. They would read it, they would hear it, except they read it for a young boy. Here they're going to miss out on it, they won't hear it. That's the question. So my first reaction is, even though I'd like to research it a little bit more, but the general rule is that if it's a halacha and it's a law in the Torah, we can't sacrifice a halacha because somebody might be embarrassed, because we have to mekayim the halacha. We can't embarrass somebody, but not if it's going at the expense of not fulfilling a certain law of the Torah. So we have to research over here. There's some people who say the Torah to themselves, they don't say it out loud. So 10 people heard it, and the other people are saying to themselves, maybe according to some opinions that would be considered enough, and therefore as long as 10 people heard it, maybe that would be enough if they say it to themselves. Saying from a klaf is only a hiddur, but to say it to themselves it might be. So I'd like to research it more to see, but that's what, generally speaking, that would be the guidelines. And we'd find the details, I have to research a little bit more.